Welcome to the Board Business Channel. Ready for something kind of cool?
Always.
Today we're diving into a company you might not know but should. Everlight Chemical.
Ooh, I like them already. Everlight sounds promising.
Right. So what do they do? Chemicals sounds kind of, well, not very exciting.
Oh, it's way more interesting than it sounds. Think high-tech, specialized ingredients, not just like barrels of crude oil.
So not the stuff under my kitchen sink.
Definitely not. They're more like the spice masters of the industrial world.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Give me an example.
That awesome red paint on a sports car, Everlight probably made the pigment that makes it so vibrant.
No way, so they're behind the scenes making everyday stuff better.
Exactly. Or your sunglasses, the UV protection, that's them too, specialty chemicals.
Wow, so they're not just making huge batches of generic stuff.
Nope, highly customized stuff, color chemicals, real expertise.
So they're like the master chefs of the chemical world with secret formulas.
You got it. And get this, Everlight's part of TSMC's supply chain.
Wait, TSMC, like the TSMC, the semiconductor giant.
The one and only. Which means Everlight's playing in the big leagues.
Wow, providing ingredients for the chips that power, what, everything these days?
Pretty much. But here's the thing, Everlight's not competing on price alone.
So they're not trying to be the cheapest option out there.
Nope, especially not with those lower cost rivals, in China.
That's got to be tough in such a competitive market.
It is, but they're focusing on high-edge value products instead.
So what, like those super specialized pigments and UV absorbers we talked about?
Exactly. Things that are essential, but also they're doing some cool stuff in, get this, digital textile printing.
Hold on, digital textile printing. Now that sounds interesting.
It's like using inkjet printers to put designs right onto fabric. Super high-tech.
Instead of those giant vats of dye, that's wild.
It's the future of fashion, and Everlight's developing the inks and chemicals that make it work.
So they're in our cars, our clothes, our sunglasses, it seems like everywhere.
They're making a big impact, but here's the best part. They're also super eco-conscious.
Seriously, I thought chemical companies were, not exactly known for being green.
Yeah, there's that stereotype, but Everlight's breaking the mold.
How so?
They're all about sustainability, reducing waste, cutting emissions, the whole 9 yards.
Okay, color me impressed.
Yeah.
So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
They are. They even developed what they call 3 low materials: low carbon, low waste, low energy use.
3 low materials, gotta love that. So they're proving you can be innovative and environmentally responsible.
Exactly. And they're even working on some super advanced tech for semiconductors, making them more efficient and less wasteful. It's called FOPLP, but basically...
FOPLP. Okay, that one's a mouthful.
Basically, it's a smarter way to package those tiny chips in our electronics, less material, better performance, win-win.
This is blowing my mind. They're innovative, profitable, and doing good for the planet. What's not to love?
You said it. And it was actually Steve, the executive director of the Arizona Taiwan office, who first told us about Everlight.
No kidding. What's his connection to the company?
He's been watching them for a while, thinks they have huge potential, especially here in the U.S., with their ties to TSMC.
So we've got a hidden gem, a company with a conscience, a potential global powerhouse.
All in one. And this is just the beginning. There's so much more to this story.
Well, I can't wait to hear it.
So before we, get too carried away with FOPLP and all that, let's skip back to something you mentioned earlier.
Oh yeah, their profits. How do they manage to stay profitable when they're not even trying to be the cheapest?
That's the beauty of their strategy, right?
Yeah.
They're not playing that cutthroat price game. They're focusing on those unique, high-value products.
So it's like they're saying, we're not going to race to the bottom. We're going to create something so good, you'll gladly pay more for it.
Exactly. And it's working. Even with all the, global supply chain craziness and economic ups and downs, they're still growing their profit.
That's super impressive, especially these days. Got any numbers to prove it?
Oh, yeah. Back in, first half of 2019, their net income jumped over 11%.
Whoa, that's during a time when, even big companies were struggling to stay afloat.
Big time. So, yeah, they're not just surviving, they're thriving. It's proof that this whole innovation specialization thing, it's a winning formula.
Totally. And we talked about digital textile printing earlier, which seems like a totally different direction for them, right?
It is, but it makes sense when you think about it. They're already the masters of color, and those high-performance chemicals, perfect for digital printing.
So they're taking their expertise and applying it to a whole new industry. That's smart.
Super smart. They're not just dabbling either. They're going all in, developing inks, dyes, treatments, the whole shebang.
They must really believe in the future of digital fashion.
Oh, absolutely. It's more sustainable, more creative, faster. Just makes sense all around.
Okay, you've convinced me. Everlight is a company to watch. Innovative, profitable, sustainable. What's not to love?
Right. But they do face challenges, like competition is fierce, especially from those lower-priced Chinese companies.
Yeah, and the global supply chain is always a mess, especially in tech.
True, but they're navigating it well, always innovating, staying ahead of the curve.
Speaking of ahead of the curve, let's talk more about their sustainability efforts.
Neat.
How are they actually putting those values into practice?
It's not just empty words, it's baked into everything they do, like those 3 low materials we talked about.
Right, low carbon, low waste, low energy, it's all connected.
Exactly. They're thinking long-term, big-picture stuff. And they're developing some game-changing tech, like FOPLP for semiconductor packaging.
FOPLP, yeah, that one still trips me up.
It's a mouthful, but basically it makes chip production more efficient and less wasteful, so our gadgets are a little greener.
Love it. So they're proving that being eco-friendly isn't just the right thing to do, it's also good for business.
Totally. It's a win-win for everyone. Consumers are demanding it, investors are rewarding it, and Everlight is leading the way.
So they're not just reacting to the market, they're shaping it. That's pretty awesome.
It is. They're showing the world that sustainability is the future, and they're going to be a big part of it.
I'm seriously impressed. This whole conversation has been eye-opening. You know, we have to give credit to Steve from the Arizona, Taiwan office for putting Everlight on our radar.
Oh, yeah. He's a huge fan, sees them as a perfect example of the kind of innovative Taiwanese companies that can really thrive in the U.S.
And with their ties to TSMC, which is expanding here, it seems like a natural fit.
It does. Steve's convinced they have a ton to offer American businesses and consumers, and honestly, I'm starting to agree with him.
Well, this has been a fascinating look at Everlight Chemical, a company that's clearly doing things differently and doing them right.
Couldn't agree more. They're a hidden gem with a bright future, and I'm excited to see what they do next.
Okay, so we've learned a ton about Everlight Chemical. Their cool products, their impressive growth, their commitment to, doing things the right way.
They're a real standout, for sure.
Totally. But before we wrap up, got to bring it back to our listeners, why should they care about all this?
Right, good point. What's the takeaway here?
Exactly. What can our listeners learn from Everlight's story? What can they, apply to their own lives or businesses?
Well, I think the first big takeaway is that you don't have to be a huge company to be successful. Look at Everlight. They've found their niche and they're killing it.
So focusing on quality over quantity, specializing, that kind of thing.
Yep. It's like they're not trying to be everything to everyone. They're the masters of their specific domain, and that's powerful.
Like we said earlier, the spice masters.
Love that analogy. It reminds us that sometimes doing a few things really well is better than trying to do it all.
Right on. So what else can our listeners learn from Everlight?
Well, their connection to TSMC is a big one. Being part of that supply chain gives them a huge advantage in the semiconductor world.
Yeah, it's like they have a direct line to one of the most important industries out there. Pretty sweet deal.
For sure. It highlights the importance of strategic partnerships, aligning yourself with the leaders in your field. Everlight's positioned perfectly to benefit from all that growth in semiconductors.
And remember, Steve, from the Arizona, Taiwan office, he's super bullish on their potential in the U.S., too.
Oh, yeah. He's convinced they can make it big here, especially with TSMC expanding their operations in the U.S.
Makes sense. But let's not forget their commitment to sustainability. It's not just a feel-good thing. It's a smart business move.
Absolutely. They're showing that being eco-conscious is good for the planet A&D, the bottom line.
Consumers are getting more and more savvy about these things, right?
Totally. And investors are taking notice, too. Companies like Everlight that are walking the walk, they're the ones that are going to come out on top.
So, to wrap things up, Everlight Chemical is a company that's doing things differently. They're innovative, they're profitable, they're sustainable, and they have a seriously bright future.
They're an inspiration, for sure.
Couldn't agree more. Thanks for tuning in to the Board Business channel. Make sure to hit the like button, subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications.